Warning. The following podcast contains mentions of graphic violence, death, and sexual assault. Listener discretion is advised. So sorry for the late start on the stream here, but I was experiencing some technical difficulties. Well, hopefully you can hear me now. So, welcome to Beauties and Beasts, a podcast of all things Beauty and the Beast. I'm DF. And we have talked about vampire romances on here on a number of occasions. From Dracula to Twilight to Hotel Transylvania, Dracula not technically a romance, Twilight a toxic shithole, and Hotel Transylvania a fun, cartoony franchise where everyone lives happily ever after. But there's one more instance in vampire pop culture that I think stands well on its own, and despite it being a supernatural TV series, is probably one of the more realistic representations of vampire romance in the way it presents vampire-human relationships among a few other Beauty and the Beast type relationships. And this is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. No, not the cheesy 1992 movie, disowned even by creator himself, Joss Whedon, but the awesome 1997 TV series starring Sarah Michelle Gellar. The story of a young teenage girl destined to be the Slayer and fight not just vampires, but all supernatural beings who seek to harm humans. I will also briefly touch upon its spin-off series Angel, as it does expand on some of the relationships mentioned in this podcast. Now, if you haven't seen either Buffy the Vampire Slayer or the series Angel, major spoiler warning. Also, because this show is 7 seasons long, I will only talk about the highlights of chosen relationships in this series. But first, I would like to thank my $5 plus patrons, Arvin Joshua Rocks 15, Bella PinkSavage, Cosmic Drail, and TyrannosaurusVenom, and my newest fairy tale patron, nalaxsimba. Thank you for your support. You too can support this podcast by becoming a patron today and receive rewards such as early access to new episodes, participation in live streams, and patron polls. Just go to patron.podbean.com/beautiesandbeasts. That's patron.podbean.com/beautiesandbeasts. Also, this podcast anniversary is coming up on August 30th, so be on the lookout for a public live stream. You can also show your support by buying merchandise on Redbubble. Just go to my Redbubble page at disneyfanatic23.redbubble.com. We're going back to school. You're going to have to wear masks. So please make sure that you have your masks. And if you do buy a mask from my Redbubble shop, then Redbubble will donate one to Heart to Heart International for everyone they sell. So, welcome to Sunnydale, California. A nice, happy, quiet little town where nothing exciting ever happens. You know, except for it being on top of a hellmouth where hellish beings come out and wreak havoc upon the human citizens. Specifically, right under Sunnydale High School. So, the high school is literally a place of hell. Get it? Which is why the Slayer, Buffy, ends up going to that school to protect the students with the help of her watcher, librarian Giles, who serves as a surrogate father figure and mentor, and her 2 best friends, Xander and lesbian witch Willow. Yes, this show had gay witches long before the Owl House. Now you know where the name Willow comes from. Buffy gets more allies throughout the series, but all at some point either end up dying or leaving to be on the spin-off series Angel. But Xander, Willow, and Giles are the most consistent supporting characters. Even though Buffy is destined to slay vampires, she also has a tendency to hook up with them. Specifically, 2 really hot ones by the names of Angel and Spike. I swear, this isn't a My Little Pony podcast, but it's weird both shows have 2 characters of the same name. Buffy's first romantic interest, in my opinion the best one, is with centuries years old vampire Angel, short for Angelus, original name Liam before he was turned. But what makes him different from other vampires is that he has a soul. See, long ago, while he was still a sadistic blood drinker, he made the mistake of killing a Romani girl. You may know them better as gypsies. In vengeance, the Romani cursed Angel by giving him a soul, and hence giving him the ability to feel remorse. So, by the time he meets Buffy, He spent all this time trying to atone for his sins and has been surviving on animal blood. He helps Buffy constantly, and eventually they develop feelings for each other. Thankfully, it's not until Buffy is 18 and therefore a legal adult that they officially first make love. Which would be great for him if there wasn't one little catch in the Romani curse. The point of it was to torture Angel, but if he ever experienced a moment of pure happiness, the curse would reverse and his soul would be taken away again. So, when he experiences this beautiful moment of intimacy with the girl he loves, he goes back to being the sadistic vampire he was before and doesn't care about Buffy anymore. Mean. Yeah, just mean of those Romani for that. But seriously, not even Bella and Edward had these kinds of problems. This is serious. So Angel rejoins his old hunting pack, Spike and Drusilla, who are lovers, and they plot to destroy the world. Yes, the same Spike I referred to earlier. We'll get into his relationship with Buffy soon. But then Spike grows jealous of Angel being with Drusilla and starts realizing that she doesn't care as much about him as he thought, and so leaves the group to warn Buffy of their plan, just to get back at Angel. Long story short, Buffy ends up stabbing Angel with a sword, just as Willow restores his soul with a magic spell, and then Buffy banishes him to a timeless demon dimension in order to save the world. Now see, vampire and human romances are complicated. It's not just, oh, I love you, I'm going to be with you forever, turn me. Angel eventually comes back after spending what felt like centuries to him in the demon dimension, but really was like a few months in human time. Buffy and Angel try to pick up where they left off, but there's the awkwardness of him trying to kill her stabbing and banishing him to hell, and the fact that now they can't have sex ever again, as that will take away his soul. I mean, that part's not a deal breaker for myself as an asexual, but I get how that can be tough for two allosexuals who really care about each other. Jeez. They try not to get any closer, but as freaking Spike, their enemy, points out, you two are never gonna be friends. You'll fight, you'll break up, you'll try and kill each other, but you're never gonna be just friends. Yes, Spike, I agree with you 100%. Nothing really happens between them until Angel is vampire poisoned, and the only cure is the blood of his slayer. So Buffy offers herself to save him. Contrary to popular belief, one vampire bite won't turn you. At least in this vampire universe, you only turn into a vampire if you drink that vampire's blood as well. But Angel doesn't want to do that, and as soon as he's better, he runs Buffy to the hospital. At the end of the 3rd season, Angel leaves for Los Angeles to start his own show, but it's not the last time his and Buffy's fates intertwine. In one crossover episode, the powers that be reward Angel for his good deeds and turn him into a human. And so he has a wonderful day with Buffy, and there's no more risk of losing his soul by being so close to Buffy. But in realizing, with his now mortal strength, he can no longer protect the innocent or the girl he loves. So he requests the powers that be that they revert him back to a vampire, but for a price, that they erase the day he spent as a human. He remembers what happened, but Buffy's was not. God, Joss Whedon, why can't you let these two babies be happy? Their arcs continue in the comics, but as I haven't read them, I won't get into them, though I know at some point Angel becomes human again. But while Angel is doing his own show, another vampire ends up falling for Buffy for no reason other than the writers trying to find a way to make him a recurring character. No, seriously, I love Spike as a bad guy gone chaotic neutral. He gets all the best lines, but I stand by my belief that his obsession with Buffy is sick and totally forced from a writer's perspective. Okay, so after Spike is dumped by his longtime vampire girlfriend, Drusilla, he kind of goes through an identity crisis, switching between ally and adversary to Buffy and her Scooby Gang. Yeah, they call it that. Also, fun fact, Buffy ends up playing Daphne in the Scooby-Doo movies later. Half cause without the girl who changed him, Spike doesn't know what to do with his life, and half cause the writers don't know what to do with him. So after snippy but endearing mean girl Cordelia left the show for the spin-off, they needed somebody pessimistic and snarky in the gang. But Spike is sort of muzzled when a secret government organization puts a chip in his brain, preventing him from harming humans. But he can fight demons, so that's one reason he chooses to join Buffy, to satisfy his sadistic impulses. It isn't until Spike starts having wet dreams about Buffy that he finally picks a side. And again, though he sees it as love, it borderlines an obsession. I mean, he has this guy build a fucking sex robot of Buffy for him. That's just sick, okay? Sorry, I'm gonna be swearing a lot in this episode. All the same, he starts helping Buffy more, and is even nice to her little sister Dawn, who literally appears out of nowhere by supernatural means. And honestly, I don't want to talk about her because she's a needy little brat who cares about no one but herself. Sorry, I really hate Dawn. When Spike confesses to Buffy, she immediately rejects him and tries to cut him out of her life. Then there's this whole thing where Buffy dies saving the world and her friends bring her back to life, and she struggles because she'd been pulled out of heaven and being back on Earth is like hell. And because of this, she finds strange comfort confiding in Spike because he knows what it's like to live a second life. Able to connect with the vampire who's tried to kill you a bunch of times versus your actual friends. That's messed up. And so Buffy and Spike end up in a toxic sexual relationship. And because he has no soul, it's okay. Can't believe I just said that. Buffy is only using Spike to avoid her feelings or lack thereof, and Spike is being a possessive creep. And when she realizes this, she breaks things off, but he won't let her go. Yeah. He even ends up trying to, okay, this is where it gets really messed up. Sexually assault her in the bathroom. She kicks him off before he can succeed and says, "Ask me again why I can never love you." Geez, I can't believe there are people who prefer this ship over Buffy and Angel. Look, Spike gets some of the best stuff, but this moment was just awful, okay? Spike, however, finally gets the wake-up call he needs, realizing what a douche he is, and goes on this torturous spiritual journey to win himself a soul to be a better man for Buffy. Changing for all the wrong reasons. And in getting a soul, he gets an onslaught of remorse over his past sins, just like Angel did. While this makes Buffy pity Spike and take him in, the guy who tried to assault you, she still doesn't get back together with him, and thank God! At the end of the series, Spike ends up sacrificing himself to save the world by putting on a mystical necklace. Too many supernatural details to get into that. And before he explodes, Buffy says, "I love you." And Spike says, "No, you don't. But thanks for saying it anyway." So that ends the Buffy and Spike relationship arc. Until Spike returns for the final season of Angel, somehow, people keep dying and coming back a lot in this show. And Spike and Angel end up arguing over who was the better partner. Totally Angel, yeah. I mean, come on, at least when Angel was cruel to Buffy, it wasn't his fault as he just had his soul ripped out and he was in a demented state. Spike has no excuse. But at least after the fallout, Spike does try to become a better person. Yeah, see, I like him as a character, but I don't like how he is with Buffy. Buffy and Angel forever! Yeah, Bella and PinkSavage. So this was Twilight before Twilight. I can see it. Yeah, except the characters are less two-dimensional. And at least Buffy is a better character than Bella. A way better character. Now, these aren't the only two relationships in the show that have significance. Joss Whedon has a tendency to ship everybody with everybody at some point. I'm serious. Xander ends up dating former mean girl Cordelia, somehow. Willow dates a werewolf boy named Oz, who cheats on her with a werewolf girl, but when he tries to get back with Willow, she's already realized she's gay for fellow witch Tara. Okay, let me put a pause there on Willow's sexuality. It did not come out of nowhere, her being into girls. It was kind of hinted at before it was it was actually a thing. But after her very sensual affair with Xander and having sex with Oz and saying that she enjoyed both instances of male physical contact, I have a hard time believing she's strictly gay and not bisexual. Or, biromantic homosexual or something like that. That's possible. That aside, Tara was definitely Willow's best partner. Oh yeah, there's also this subplot in the spinoff when Angel falls for Cordelia, but then Cordelia hooks up with Angel's human son that he has with another vampire, and then Cordelia gives birth to a cannibalistic goddess. Yeah, that's a lot more complicated than it sounds, but still messed up, and I hate the writers for ruining Cordelia like they did Spike. I won't get into that one. See, you people in the chat are really confused by what I just said. I could not make this up if I wanted to. But, backtracking here, I wanted to talk about Willow and Tara. They met in college in a witches group and realized that all these witches are just wannabes who don't perform any spells, as that's a harmful stereotype, as they say. Tara and Willow are the only real witches, and so start hanging out and falling in love. And it's great, because they were both wallflowers who didn't get involved in much, except Willow had come out of her shell sooner, and so helped Tara come out of hers. Tara also came from a controlling family who made her believe she had demon blood in her, which proved to be a ruse, and Willow and the gang became her new family and support system. But then Willow starts going down a dark path with her magic, and Tara calls her out on the dangers of using it for selfish means. Instead of listening, Willow casts a spell to erase Tara's memory of the fight. Nice. When Tara finds out, she leaves Willow, and it's not until Willow swears off magic that they decide to try their relationship again. See, it's important to have disagreements in a relationship so that you can move past them and come out stronger. Willow and Tara are there for each other when Tara gets even when Tara gets lobotomized by a goddess and Willow's witchcraft becomes an addiction, and they are so sweet, so wholesome, and Joss Whedon, I hate you for this. Just when they get back together, and they're sharing a sweet moment, Tara gets shot, murdered, and because it's a natural death, Willow cannot bring her back. I pretty much died at this point. Willow's witch powers then let loose, and she gets revenge on the killer by flailing him, which, by the way, means turning him inside out. When her best friend Xander gets Willow off that rampage, Willow spends the last season trying to find peace and cope with the loss of Tara without killing anybody. And then gets a totally forced love interest named Kennedy, who she has nothing in common with other than also being gay. Come on, Joss Whedon, Willow deserves better than that. Xander also has a Beauty and the Beast relationship sometime after his breakup with Cordelia. He gets with Anya, a former revenge demon who would help wronged women get vengeance on the pigmen who ruined their lives, because she herself had been scorned by a man. Ironically, she grants Cordelia's wish to get revenge on Xander after he had cheated on her with Willow. Yeah. But ends up losing her powers and is forced to live as a human. How dorky Xander keeps attracting the rude and self-centered girls, I'll never understand. Not that dorky boys aren't cute, but Xander seems to have a very unhealthy type in women. For a time, though, Xander and Anya's relationship is pretty functional. He helps her integrate into modern human society, and she pushes him to get off his butt and get a job and an apartment, so that he's not a lazy man. They even end up engaged, but then they start bottling things up that bother them in fear it will ruin things. Makes sense given their past relationships. So, at the wedding, Xander is visited by an older version of himself, warning him not to marry Anya, and shows what his future would be like if he does. But turns out that it's not really an older version of Xander, but one of Anya's victims out for revenge. But even though the future that Xander saw was fake, they were fears that he'd already had, and he decides that they are just not ready to get married, and so he leaves Anya at the altar. See, this is why you talk little problems out before they become big problems. Heartbroken, Anya ends up becoming a revenge demon again, and she and Xander eventually become sort of friends after breakup sex. Yep. And Anya dies in the series finale, so no chance of getting back together in the comics. So yeah, this series is an emotional roller coaster, and almost everyone seems to hook up with everyone else at some point. But what I like about this show is that even with the supernatural genre, it still presents real relationship issues, people issues in general. From drug addiction to abuse to infidelity to intimacy issues to grief, shows that even in the best relationships that make you feel good and make you want to be a better person, there are always going to be problems. The really healthy relationships are able to work through most of them. But as demonstrated by the series, some problems just can't be fixed. And relationships won't last forever, so enjoy the time you've got with your loved one. And if something breaks you apart, like death, be prepared to move on. Seriously though, Buffy and Angel forever. Screw Cordelia and Angel. Screw Buffy and Spike. Alright. Sorry there wasn't any music here. The music does not seem to be working today. Okay, did anyone have anything else to offer? Yeah, I've pretty much spoiled all the very big highlights of the show. Yeah. Yeah, but don't get me wrong. While it is an emotional roller coaster, it is a really excellent series. And fun in some places. And yeah, just advice. If you want to watch the series and you don't want the characters you love to die, stop at season 3. But then again, you don't know Willow is gay until season 4, and then, okay, you know what, never mind. Watch the series until you just can't handle the emotions anymore. By that definition, I should have stopped watching it a while ago. But it's still so good. Alright, so, next episode is decided on by patron Bella PinkSavage. We'll steer away from the romance for a bit and review my second favorite DreamWorks movie, Monsters vs. Aliens, a movie less about romantic love and more about self-love. And I promise it'll be a lot more upbeat than what I did today. Okay? Until next time, make sure you check out my Redbubble page and buy some merchandise and become a patron if you want to support this podcast. All right, goodbye.